Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at a few caravan maintenance tips that could set you up for the beginning of the season. Could save you a few quid as well, save a caravan engineer doing some fixes and little tweaks for you. Also, we've just took off the cover and as you can tell it's rained. So we're getting ready for the season. So let's take a look at a few tips that I've got for you. So in order to do these few tips and tricks that I've got for you today, we're going to need a few tools and some equipment. So here's what I've brought with me to do these little tips. First of all, we have a tyre compressor. We have a separate tyre pressure gauge. I like to use the one on the machine and also as a separate guide. We have some silicone grease, some brake fluid cleaner, and we have some silicone spray or WD-40. Now, one thing that I do like to use is the Malenko torque wrench. Now, I would recommend this one because it seems to be the best calibrated one that's on the market. Some of the cheaper ones are not very accurate. Don't forget that you need your locking wheel nut kits in order to remove your locks, a wheel brace, and a selection of screwdrivers. Some of these are flat-headed and some of those are cross-headed or Phillips. So let's get on with it. So now I have removed my wheel lock, and what I'm going to do is first of all check the actual condition of my tyre. Now this is quite a new tyre, so I know it's in reasonably good order, but nonetheless I'm going to check it. On the outside we're going to check for any lumps, bumps, rips or tears, and likewise on the other side, but be careful when you're checking the other side. You don't want to be crawling underneath the van really. And also we're going to check that the tread is in good condition and there's no splits or cracks in it as well. Now, moving on to the actual wheel itself, we're going to check the torque in a minute, but before we do that, let's check the tyre pressure. Now, what I like to do is I like to use my standalone tyre pressure gauge first of all. Now, I check it in PSI because on the other side of the caravan there's a plate, and that plate tells me that this caravan tyres should be 64 PSI, so we're going to check that. Now, if you don't have a plate on yours with the actual measurements of any of your torques, settings or your actual tyre pressures, check your handbook or contact your local dealer or go on the website of the manufacturer. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but this is 58.2, which is very low. So what we're going to do now is inflate the tyre. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this. I'm trialling it at the moment and testing it out for the season for works. It's part of the PowerShare range and it's their air compressor. It's 4-in-1. It's got a lighting system on it and an emergency flashlight as well. It's quite a good bit of kit. So I'm going to put that on and just check that it's set at 64 PSI, which it is, and we're now going to inflate the tyre. It would help if I put it on properly. That's better. Okay, so it's now inflated, so we'll take that off now. Now, if you would like me to do a full review on this, let me know in the comments and I will do. But other than that, I am going to let you know at the end of the season what it's been like. But it's the Works PowerShare tyre inflator 4-in-1. Quite a good bit of kit so far. Right, so now that I've checked that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to check the torque settings on the actual wheel nuts. So I'll get the torque wrench and I'll show you how to use that. Okay, so with this particular torque setting on my caravan, it's 130 Newton meters for alloy wheels. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the handle until it reaches the nearest one for me, which is 126. So we'll turn it to 126. Sorry if this jumps out of focus, but it's a little difficult to do on camera. So we've reached 126, and what I'm going to do, these inner ones here that are actually on the handle, I'm going to turn it for measurements, if you will, and that will give me 130. So that puts it at 0 on this particular one. Right, now it's ready for use, so I'm going to torque the wheel nuts up now. Now if you're going to do this, what I would recommend you do, after about 20 hours worth of towing, check them again. Personally, these are recommendations. What I do is every time I take this out, whether I'm coming to a site or going from a site, I will always check these torque settings to make sure the wheel nuts are tight. Sometimes I'll slacken them off a little bit as well and then retighten them. Just gives me a little bit more peace of mind knowing that I've done it. So I've done all 4 of the nuts. Obviously I need to get the spanner that fits inside there, the socket, and fit that on and torque that one up, which I'll do off camera, but just to let you know, that's how you torque them up. Now when you finish with your torque wrench, always undo it and take the tension off it, because if you don't, it could damage the spring inside. So that's slackened off now, I'm happy with that. Right, this can go away now and we'll show you the next thing. Now if you watched the channel before, you'll know that I've used Safe Fill for quite a while now. I have a 10 litre version, and it's a great piece of kit and I like it, but the problem is this gas locker here is quite narrow and it's a bit of a faff to get it in and out. And we were also looking about saving a little bit more weight, so we discussed it and Juliet decided that we would buy a smaller one. So this is it, this is the 7.5, which is lighter, and also obviously it takes less gas, so we're quite happy with that. We tend to be using a little less gas these days, but it still makes this good value for money. Now if you've been using the small Cala ones, you know that they're now going out of production and you're going to struggle to get anything lightweight. So my recommendation, and I always have recommended it, is one of these. I think they're great, Safe Fill all day long. There are others on the market, but for me, I've always used it and I've been very happy with it. So I'm going to fit that into the gas locker now, because it's obviously we removed it at the end of the season, so it's getting ready for testing. So let's put it on now. Now before I put the gas bottle in, what I like to do is check these actual housings here, these clip areas. These attach the actual strapping to the Caravan and the actual bottle itself. Make sure they're nice and tight. I just noticed mine was a bit loose, so off camera I quickly tightened it up. Now, as well as the strap that comes provided with it, I also like to put a bungee around it as well, because it doesn't quite sit in this actual slot properly. So I like to add a bungee for a bit more stability, just to stop it rattling around in here. So let's get it in now. Okay, actually this one sits in better than the other one did, so I'll just tighten the strap up. There we go. Actually I don't need the bungee this time, I'm quite happy about that. Right, so obviously making sure it's closed. Now I have a wheel pigtail. Now if you don't have a wheel pigtail, you'll obviously need a gas spanner. Remember, when you tighten this up, it's the opposite way to what you normally tighten, so it's anti-clockwise. Now don't over tighten this, because remember it's brass, but just get it firmly tightened. That's it, it's ready to go. Now that's not moving anywhere and I'm happy with that. I'll check the gas flame in a moment just to make sure that it's functioning right, and I'll test the gas. Now one more thing I do like to do with the Caravan after it's been in storage for a long period of time is I like to check the actual bodywork as well. Check the panels, make sure there's no damage to them, especially the corners and the front and rear panels. Make sure they're okay, no cracks in your lenses, etc. And you're happy with the general look and feel of the Caravan. Making sure, like I say, no damage, no cracks, and that's going to keep it watertight. If I do notice anything, obviously get it repaired as soon as you possibly can, because otherwise it's going to cost you money. So whilst we were away in France, I noticed that this door had a bit of a squeak, and I thought, well, what am I going to use to stop that, because it's really annoying. So I had a look on the market and I found WD-40 silicone spray. Now it's ideal this for plastic on plastic, which is what I really bought it for, because the hinges inside the Caravan are exactly that, the plastic. So I'm going to be spraying a little bit into the hinges and hopefully it'll prevent the squeaks. So we're just going to spray into the hinge area like so. Now once you've sprayed it, what you might want to consider, just getting yourself a cloth and just wiping any excess off like so. Now once the hinge is actually been sprayed, what I would recommend is you just actually move it backwards and forwards slightly and allow it to work into the hinge, and it should prevent any squeaking. So the next thing we're going to discuss, simple maintenance but it could be costly, is the window rubbers. Now they are designed for one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to prevent water from getting inside the caravan. So if we just open this at the minute, these are my window rubbers. Now when you're cleaning the caravan you should always give these a good clean, because generally this is where a lot of the muck actually gets stuck and it causes black streaks as we go down the caravan here. So what I like to do is I like to keep these moist, and the best way to do it is to use silicone grease, which is what I've got here. Now when you actually are greasing these, don't do the side that's closest to the actual caravan. You don't want to be touching that. What you want to be doing is just concentrating on the soft pad part and just putting a smear on there. This will stop it drying out and also sticking to the window and damaging it, and that will cause a leak. So every so often just get yourself some silicone and just do what I'm doing. Just rub it on with your finger, but don't go on the inside as I said before. This will keep these supple. It'll stop them drying out and it'll prevent cracks and then leading to leaks. Now you don't have to use silicone grease like I'm using. You can actually use something like Vaseline, or you could use furniture polish as well. Something with a silicone base is ideal for this, but if you're going to use furniture polish, make sure you spray it to a cloth or a tissue first before you wipe it on. You don't want it going everywhere. Okay, so that's complete. Now what I tend to do is just leave it for a little while. I don't close the window straight away. I like to let the air get to it. It'll dry a little bit, but it'll form like a skin, if you will, and it'll keep protecting this, and hopefully it'll last a long time. Okay, so I want to check my gas now, just to make sure I've got a good flow with it and with no issues. Now how I test it is this: simply just put your gas on, and also remember to stick your actual electricity on as well, because this is an electric spark and we need that to obviously ignite it. So what we're going to do first of all, we're going to test a large one. So there we go. Now we've got a nice blue consistent flame there. If we get any flickering or really bad yellow or sputtering type effects going on with the gas, then turn it off. You may need to seek an engineer to get that checked and tested. So what I'm going to do now is I'll turn that one off because I'm happy with it, and I'm going to check the others. Yep, that's nice and consistent. Finally the last one, because I've only got 3. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now like I say, if there's any issues with it, turn it off immediately and consider talking to a caravan engineer about it. Get it checked out. Now what we're going to do now is going to have a look at a few more little tips and tricks that I've got for you on the inside of the caravan. So let's take a look at those. Now as these caravans bump and rattle down the road, screws become loose and you get squeaks and groans. So we're going to have a look at a few places that potentially where these squeaks and groans could come from loose screws. But the thing that I would like to draw your attention to first is something that I've heard some really horrendous stories about, and that is this cooker top. Now it's glass and it's quite heavy, and it's held on by 2 screws for the hinge. Now I have heard that this has come off in transit and damaged the inside of people's caravans, which is not a pleasant thing because the bill could be horrendous. So what I do is every so often I take a flathead screwdriver and I just insert it into the screw heads here and just check that they're tight. Don't over tighten these, because if you do, you could potentially crack this glass and then you're in for another bill. So just be careful, but check it periodically just to make sure that this is actually secure via the screws. So as I mentioned before, we get the rattles, the squeaks, and we turn to our screwdrivers to actually have a look at some of the screws within the Caravan. Now don't go mad, it won't be every single one that probably needs doing. You just might pick up on it. I've just noticed something else in here, and it's dead simple. It's this little panel here. It's the screws are quite loose. Now it does have a gap between it, so don't press on too hard and don't over tighten, but just give it a little tweak. Same on this side. There we go. And that's nice and fixed. So never use a power screwdriver in a Caravan. These things are so thin that you potentially could either rip the screw through it, tear a bigger hole, and it won't fit at all then. So just use hand screwdrivers, don't use power tools. Now if you have a vanity mirror like we do, every so often I check these as well. Now the hinges that hold the glass mirror to the actual hinge is just a simple screw, and every so often I just come along and I nip these tight. As you can see, that was quite loose. Same with the top. Again, this is something else you don't want falling off and causing damage to your Caravan. And there we go. Now another area where you might find loose screws is here. Is actually inside the drawers. The handles themselves, these are a Phillips screw generally, so I'm just going to check these just to make sure these are tight. And same with the next one, down. They're okay, that's fine. So I'm happy with that. And now I'm going to go around all the drawers and make sure the handles are secure. So another good example is this. As you can see, it's quite loose and it needs tightening up, and you can see where the discoloration's been where it's originally been set. So try and set it back where it was originally, and then you know that it's in line, and give it a quick tighten with the screwdriver. At the same time, we're going to try the hinges as well, make sure they're okay. Yep, they're fine. And that should do it for another season. So what we noticed while we were away on holiday recently was this blind. It's decided that it's not going to go up fully, and I think the spring inside needs tensioning a little bit more. So that's my job for now, and how we do that is quite simple. With this one being so close to the panel here, I'm going to use this short flat-headed screwdriver. And there's two sets of slit holes, if you will. There's one top and one bottom. Now the bottom one is to adjust this blind, and the top one is to adjust the actual fly screen. So we're going to concentrate on the bottom one. So what we're going to do now is we're going to adjust it with a flathead screwdriver, and I'm going to stick my glasses on because I'm probably going to struggle. Now this might be difficult to actually film, but what I'm doing is fitting the screwdriver into the slotted section like so. That's now working perfectly. What I had to do was fit the screwdriver into the actual slot and turn it towards myself, and that released the actual tension on the spring, but just enough in order to allow this to return to the top instead of sticking at the bottom or halfway, and it's worked quite well. Okay, another thing that I just want to share with you as well is check your leisure battery. Now the easiest way to do it is check it via your control panel. So I've just switched the power on and I'm going to switch it on now. It's averaging between 13.4, which is really good. And it's telling me on mine that my solar panel is charging at the moment, so I'm really happy with that. Now you can check your heating system as well. Unfortunately today I don't have the facilities to do that, but remember, check your heating system, make sure that's working as well. Well folks, that is our Caravan maintenance tips. There are plenty more, but unfortunately I couldn't cram them into such a short video. I do hope that they're useful for you and you can use them within your own Caravan. Probably save yourself a few bob keep the caravan engineers at bay. Now, if you did like the video, please give us a thumbs up. Feel free to comment, and also if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribing, because that also helps the channel too. Thank you very much for watching. I do hope you'll join us again real soon, but in the meantime, bye for now.